Hey, I'm still alive. Can you believe it? How's it going, everybody? Wow, I cannot believe it's been a month and a half since I've posted. It would be a movie of the week if I told you about all the stuff that happened in the last month and a half that kept me from doing an upload. But I'm not going to bore you with that. But I'm glad to be back. Missed you all very much. I have a lot of catching up to do, not just on my uploads, but on watching some of yours as well. So I will get around to that. And I want to thank my friends Halloween fan Mark and Don Wayne, subscribers and my buddies who were nice enough to check up on me. Yes, I'm still alive and kicking. More kicking than alive, but here I am. And I also want to say hello to my growing international family. I want to say Mita Kulu to all my friends in Finland, to my friends in Germany, Wie geht es Ihnen, in the Czech Republic, Dobry večer, to my Russian friends, Kak Jila, Kakošte, to those in Serbia, my Spanish-speaking friends, Como sta? If you're in Italy, Como va? France, Como allez-vous? If you're in Australia, G'day mates, and if you're in New Zealand, cheers. And let's see, have I left anyone out? To all my friends in Canada, eh. And last but not least, to my American friends, what's up? So that should get that out of the way. And let's talk about the real reason why you're here. And that's to look at my handsome face. Okay, that's enough of that. I also want to give out some I want to give some shout outs to DJ Washington, Daryl, Dots and Loops, of course. By the way, Brett, the vinyl victim, I do have the David Bowie box sets ready to show. So I'm sorry I made you wait so long to get around to see them, but I'm getting around to those pretty quick. I just wanted to make sure they were perfect. Something else I also did in my hiatus is I went and purchased all of these metal blind purchases, 100% of different types of metals, heavy metal and so forth. And a lot of you enjoyed my last upload where I did the same thing, so I'll be getting around to that as well. And for Ambi VVN, hi sis, if you're out there, don't worry, these covers don't need to be censored, so I'm sure you'll enjoy that. Okay, what else? Art. I'm still drawing, and recently I had some of my artwork on display, so I'm not going to waste too much time, but I'm going to show you some of the stuff that I drew. And these have been laminated. That's my dream girl right there. Well, she was my dream girl until this one came along. There's my dream girl there, standing in front of the Hollywood sign. And I love Western art. Cowboys, Native Americans, covered wagons, cacti. I just love that type of thing. So I drew this cowboy in honor of all you buckaroos out there. And last but not least, DJ Trish. If you're watching, we all love DJ Trish, and we know that she loves her pizza. And this is a drawing of a young lady about ready to devour some double pepperoni. And as I've said many times before, I love nothing more than drawing beautiful young ladies stuffing their faces. So that's the art that I'm going to show you. I usually do stuff in black and white, but I decided to go ahead and take a foray into color. The last picture I'm going to show you is something that happened in New York City. I spent a lot of time there, especially when I was younger. Everyone knows that if you're on the subway, you don't make eye contact with people. You just don't do it. But I saw a Hasidic Jewish gentleman reading a Yiddish newspaper, and I was trying to decipher what the paper was saying. And as I was looking, he looked at me. We both made eye contact, and he smiled and he nodded, and I smiled and nodded. It was a special moment because, people in New York City don't usually just look at each other and smile. So when I got back to Wichita, Kansas after vacationing there, I decided to draw a picture of him from memory. And yes, I do draw men. I don't enjoy it as much as the ladies, but there's the Hasidic Jewish gentleman the way I remember the way he looked. And this is a very special picture for me because sometimes strangers just can make a very nice connection. And I don't see many of these type of people in Wichita, Kansas. Okay, well, okay, one more picture. Come here, you. Another picture of the ladies. You know, if you got freckles and you're a woman, I love you. I just love drawing women with freckles, and so there you go. Okay, that's my art. But today we are going to talk about R&B, funk, and soul music. I got some albums to show you. But to segue into that, I'm going to talk about my uncle. He reminds me of Richard Pryor. The way he talks, the way he acts. He's a very funny guy. I love him very much. One time I was listening to some rock music, and he walked in and he said, "Why are you listening to that rock stuff, man? Listen to some funk, brother. Listen to some soul. Don't be a jive turkey." Back in the 70s, grown people were calling each other jive turkey. I never understood what that meant, but you did not want to be called a jive turkey. But despite that, I decided to start listening to a lot of R&B and just fell in love with it, funk and soul. So I'm going to show you some records that I've gotten. And we're going to start with this. I clumsily came upon this, and I said to myself when I saw this record, "Oh, these guys look cool. I bet they sound like Earth, Wind, and Fire." As it turns out, it was Earth, Wind, and Fire. I'd never seen this album before. This is called Head to the Sky. Love this record. Haven't heard it yet, but I'm going to, on a party day, I'm going to listen to it. Love that insert. Is that? No, that's not an insert. That's a gatefold. And I think the cameraman said, "Okay, everybody, shirts off, except for you, young lady. We don't want the censors to ban this record." So I'm going to get around to listening to that. If you've heard it before, let me know what you think. Moving on, the Brothers Johnson. Love these fellas. I grew up listening to their music. They performed a song called Strawberry Letter 23, which was originally performed by Shuggy Otis. Beautiful song. And they did a remake of it, which does it justice. Lee Ritenour plays lead guitar in it. This was produced by Quincy Jones and has some great songs on it. I'll Be Good to You. Get the Funk Out of My Face. As a kid, I accidentally mispronounced the name of that album. Oh my God. My mom said, "What are you listening to?" And I said, "Get the Out of My Face," and I said funk wrong, and I was grounded. In fact, in about 10 more minutes, I should be officially ungrounded from that. We have this, like I said, produced by Quincy Jones. Now, a lot of people may not know this, but we all know the artist Leslie Gore. She performed the songs It's Judy's Turn to Cry, It's My Party, and rock's first feminist song, You Don't Own Me. The interesting connection between her and Quincy Jones is that he was vice president of the company that produced those songs. So Quincy Jones and Leslie Gore made each other famous. It's a fantastic record. Check it out when you get a chance, the Brothers Johnson. Did I mention that the guitar solo on their version of Strawberry Letter 23 was performed by Lee Ritenour? Okay, well, if I didn't, I did again. Growing up, there was a decrepit supermarket in our neighborhood. It served a diverse community. And I remember as a kid, there were 4 stands up at the checkout counter. 2 of the stands were magazine racks. And the magazines were Playboy and Penthouse. Now, back in the day, Playboy and Penthouse were not put behind a panel. They were not wrapped in plastic, but they were out there in full view of everybody, including kids. And it didn't turn us into warped, perverted individuals to see that. Well, we weren't warped anyway. But it just thought it was funny, because nowadays that kind of thing doesn't happen. I remember as a kid, my mom would sometimes just cover my eyes and, I would do this number. Or my dad would say, "Don't look. Look at me." "Yes, sir." But that was just the way things were back then. Now the other 2 racks were music racks. One of the racks was like for Tom T. Hall, Charlie Daniels, The Captain, and Tennille. But the other music rack was almost exclusively devoted to the following group: and that was the Ohio Players. The Ohio Players were founded in Toledo, Ohio, and when I found out that, I said, oh my goodness, I had no idea that they were actually founded in Ohio. I mean, imagine that, the Ohio Players founded in Ohio. But the four albums that really stuck out as a child was Ecstasy, Pain, Climax, and Pleasure. And I have those, but this one here is Pain. And as a kid, this record scared me to death because this is the first time I saw a willfully bald woman on the cover of an album. And then as I got older, I thought she was beautiful, and then I always wanted to like rub her head if I ever met this woman. But this is on the Westbound label. A lot of the music on these albums are mid to high tempo soul music, ranging anywhere from 3 to 7 minutes long. You know, nothing too hard to deal with. Great stuff, the Ohio Players. And going back to that part where I talked about the Playboy and Penthouse, the only time that really bothered us as kids to see those magazines is if we wanted to buy a copy of Mad magazine, and I'd tell the storekeeper, hey, you got any Mad magazine? And he'd say, nope, we're sold out. You got Playboy, you got Penthouse. Take it or leave it, kid. These are not in any order, but another Ohio Player album I really love is Jazzy Lady. This record is just wonderful. If you don't think you'll be convinced you like this, check out a song called Funko Knots. One thing I appreciate about the Ohio Players is they maintained a great deal of integrity. Despite the fact that they sometimes dabbled with pop, rock, or jazz, they still had that wonderful funk sound, and they always maintained a horn section. To me, a funk album without a horn section is like a PB and J without the J, or the PB. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good funk albums out there without a horn section, but as far as I'm concerned, you gotta have that. And the Ohio Players always managed to have a good horn section. The very best of the Ohio Players, this is not on the Westbound label. This is just a collection of stuff on, I think, BMI or something. Wait a minute. United Artists. Whoever came up with this album cover does not believe in subtlety. Let me ask you a question. How many of you have seen the movie The Breakfast Club? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you have watched The Breakfast Club 1,000,000 times? Raise your hand. Now, for those of you who raised your hand the second time, doesn't this remind you of a particular scene in that movie? Think about it. Get back with me. Here's another album. This is Climax with that Amazon woman on the cover. Once again, just a spellbinding set of songs. And there's the beautiful, I mean beautiful Westbound label. Go away, Glare. Now, if you get a record and you see that label, you know you're in for a party. Another thing about the Ohio Players is an interesting story I want to tell you. As a kid, I went to a skating rink. I would never skate. The only reason I went to a skating rink is I wanted to see people fall down and injure themselves. And the more serious the injury, the happier I was. But I remember one time I was sitting there and a young girl was sitting next to me. She was taking off her skates, getting ready to go home. Her mom was standing by her and she was saying, let's go. The DJ put on a song, Funky Worm, by the Ohio Players, and that kid was back in those skates and back out on the rink so fast you couldn't imagine it. And I remember her mom yelling after her, okay, after the song we're going home. The funny thing was her mom was doing this. So here's the thing, if you want to placate somebody's impatience, put on the Ohio Players. It'll calm them down. All you politicians out there, if you want to sell some legislation, next time you give a speech, play the Ohio Players in the background and you'll get a lot of votes, because it just seems to be a fun type of music that just makes everybody at ease. Here's another great Ohio Players album. This is Rattlesnake. Now, I'm the kind of person who's always been pretty astute about noticing things before other people do. And the first thing I noticed was, that's not a rattlesnake. But I guess the title Rattlesnake is a little sexier than the Ohio Players reticulated python or the Ohio Players boa constrictor. Once again, some mid to high tempo, good soul music. I love this cover because, she's up here doing her thing, and this guy's thinking, hey, girl, stop playing that trombone. The brother's trying to sleep. So, and I guess, having a rattlesnake on the cover, hanging a rattlesnake across your shoulder can be slightly problematic. They bite. So what is it about Ohio? It seems to be a hub for funk. And I'll tell you why, because it's founded in Steubenville, Ohio, is this group here. This was Wild Cherry. Okay, this is I Love My Music, and this one here is Only the Wild Survive. Everyone, even if you didn't live during the time it was released, everyone remembers Play That Funky Music. The story behind that song is apparently they were performing and audiences were wanting to get into the disco phase because it was popular at that time. And so somebody yelled in the audience, hey, white boy, play some funk. Now, whether that story is true or not, I like that story. And inspiration comes from the strangest places because, that inspired the biggest selling song that year. And even though it was always listened to in a disco, it's not a disco song. This is not a disco group. This is a funk rock group. The music is it's great. And the girl on the cover here reminds me of a young lady I had a crush on in high school who refused to talk to me. Sad. And the young lady on this cover also reminds me of a young lady I knew in high school I had a crush on who also refused to talk to me. So I listened to Wild Cherry with a little bit of sadness, but whoa, stay. So if you get a chance, check out Wild Cherry. For those of you who like Parliament, Bootsy Collins, and Funkadelic, this is George Clinton. This album is called All My Best Jokes. My best jokes are. I don't know some of my best jokes are friends. A spoonerized title. Enjoyed this record a lot. Now, one of the guest artists on this album is none other than the Euro genius himself, Thomas Dolby, on the keyboards. He's the one who gave us Radioactive and Blinded Me with Science. And when I found out that he was on this album, I could not get this out of the plastic fast enough. And it does not disappoint as far as the music goes. This is George Clinton. Check it out. Okay. Now, for those of you familiar with Andrew, who has his own channel, Tales from the Crate, I'm going to yield to him because he has an upload entitled, Hey Mom, What's a Funkadelic? And he can tell the story better than I can, so I've left the link in there. But this is Free Your Mind and Your Ass Will Follow by Funkadelic. Booty time. And let's see here. Gatefold. Enjoy, so please check out Tales from the Crate's story. Okay, I'm going to throw a little rap in there. This is the Two Live Party featuring KC from KC and the Sunshine Band. You talk about another interesting collaboration. Now listen to how many versions of this song is on this 12-inch single. The explicit album version, the explicit street version, the instrumental version, the radio version, the extra clean radio version, the clean street version, and a cappella clean version, and a partridge in a pear tree. That's a lot of different versions of that song, so if you like it, you're not going to be disappointed. By the way, let me go back to that Brothers Johnson album. They released a 12-inch single from Strawberry Letter 23, which is actually on red vinyl, red pressing, that smells like strawberry. I want that. If any of you out there have it, give it to me. Okay, it's mine, not yours. I've never heard of a scented 12-inch single. Coming up, another Funkadelic offering, illustrated by Pedro Bell. This is Cosmic Slop. Another great record, another great artist drawing the cover. Fantastic gatefold. Now, this is the fourth time I have shown Stevie Wonder's Intervisions, and it's the fourth copy of the record I have, that's why. But the reason why I keep showing it is because I have listened to this record for decades, and every single time I discover something new. It used to be the songs I loved were Visions, Too High, Living for the City. What's the song by Red Hot Chili? Excuse me. Red Hot Chili Peppers did a version of Higher Ground, which is a song about transcendence. But I listened to this again, and He's Mr. Know-It-All was the song that kind of stuck out on this one. Good grief. I just got a burp, a spasm, a hiccup, a cough, all at the same time. That's weird. But for those of you who love Stevie Wonder, I really recommend listening to this one. And like I said, you discover something new every time because Stevie Wonder is a true genius. Also, another Stevie Wonder album. This is the original Musicarium. The only way you're going to get to hear Do I Do, which features the trumpet solo by Dizzy Gillespie. There's another album he released called The Secret Life of Plants, and it's actually scented. When you open it up, it smells like flowers. I have a copy, but it doesn't smell like flowers anymore. Founded by Eric Burdon from The Animals, this is War, All the World's a Ghetto, featuring the song Cisco Kid. And every time I listen to that song, I think about eating salty peanuts out the can. Great, great, great record. Some good Afro-Cuban pop rock music. I'm going to go through these quickly. This is Tina Charles, Heart and Soul. This is Karen White. And this here is Breakwater. I haven't listened to this yet. I bought it because I'm pretty sure that it's going to be something I like in the soul, R&B, and funk category. Now we're going to talk about, as in closing, the D word. Disco. Sorry. I'm going to handle this with shortness and sweetness because a lot of people don't like disco. I'm talking to you, Luke Skiam, my buddy from New York. So I'm going to be very quick, and I'm going to show you some disco records. The Village People's first album. Macho Man. Cruisin'. And Go West. Done. That wasn't so bad. And for being good boys and girls, you'll all get a lollipop, a dum-dum, and a balloon, just like at the doctor's office. One thing I do remember about listening to funk, R&B, and soul as a kid is some of the afros that you see on the covers of some of these records, especially the Ohio Players. Let me see if I can find a good picture. I can't find one. But let me show you an afro that you will never forget. That's me. 17 years old, just graduated from high school. What a handsome fellow, right? I would walk down the street and women would scream. Nowadays, I walk down the street and women scream, but it's mostly out of fear. Hey, what can I say? Times change. All right, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed what you've seen. Let me know why you don't like disco. I would be curious about that because, here's my philosophy. If you don't like disco, it's because you're a racist. Just kidding. All right. Love you guys all. I love all you guys. Thanks for coming by, and I will see you again.